Thank you. I didn't think I could get up here and do this without telling you how I came to Jesus. It happened about 15 years ago. In 2002, my 19-year-old daughter died of breast cancer. And I spent 5 years being not a very nice person. Thank God, I didn't take my kids to church. Thank God we had a hospice minister that led her to the Lord before she passed. But I still spent another 5 years hating the world, and I don't anymore. My son started a Christian stunt riding team with one of his friends, and they went all over the country and did shows. And when they did their shows, halfway through the show, somebody would get up and give their testimony, and then they'd finish the show, and somebody would close it out. We did a show in Horseheads, New York. You guys know where that's at. And I wasn't sure I was going to go to that show, and I couldn't make up my mind, but I ride a motorcycle too. So I got on my bike, and I went up, and I knew I was going to be late, but that's okay. It was all about the bikes. It really wasn't about listening to what these guys had to say about Jesus. So it was my son's turn to get up and give his testimony that day. And he got up there in front of people, and he said, "Dad, come here." I didn't even hear him. I'm in the back looking at the bikes and messing around, and he said it again, and he said it a little more forcefully. He said, "Dad, come here." I didn't want to do that. So I went up there and I stood beside him. He said, "Let me tell you about the worst year of my life." It was 5 years ago. My best friend got killed on a motorcycle. 2 weeks later, my sister died of breast cancer. And 2 weeks after that, I got married. He said, "I couldn't have got through that with the two strongest men I know." He said, "My dad and Jesus." Guys, that was the day I made up my mind that I was going to follow Jesus. And I have been doing that ever since. Do I get it all right? Heck no, but I'm sure having fun trying. In 2013, I went on my first 8 Days of Hope trip. I had no intention of ever being a volunteer that traveled the country to do things. And when I went there, I went because, hey, they got a bunch of volunteers working, and I'm pretty good at this stuff, so I'll go down there and show them how good I am. That lasted about a day and a half till you really realize why you're there. We get to minister to hurting people every day. We get to meet those people where they are. We get to tell them about Jesus. We get to show them who Jesus is. So I get to travel all over the country sharing Jesus with people. And being in the group of 8 Days of Hope, that's a pretty easy thing to do. It's easy when you're among your own to be that person. It's a little harder when you go back home. And I strive to do that better. So that's our rebuilds. When we do a rebuild, we usually have anywhere from 1,500 to 4,000 volunteers. And in Houston 4 years ago, we worked on 800 houses with 4,600 volunteers. Guys, that's spreading a lot of Jesus, and that's what we like to do. In 2019, we started a rapid response ministry to go along with it so that we could get to an area that was hit by a natural disaster within 24 to 48 hours. And I could never do that because I had a full-time job. I made all the rebuilds and all the things that were planned ahead, but I couldn't just pick up in the middle of the week and head somewhere. So in 2019, I quit my job and decided I was going to be a missionary because I know that's where God wants me to be. I know that I need to be out serving people. So that's what I do now. My very first rebuild trip, or rapid response trip, has a huge impact on my life. I went to a lady's house to assess the damage at her house, and she had 5 feet of water in her house. And I knocked on the door, and I said, "Ma'am, do you need help?" And she said, "Not from you." So she needed help badly. She's an 85-year-old black woman. So we'd stop periodically. We were there for a month. We'd stop periodically and ask her if she needed help. She finally gave in, and we sent a crew in there and carried almost all her belongings out and gutted the downstairs floor of her house. And when we do that, we ask these people to come in and share at supper with us so we can hear what God's doing and what the volunteers have done in their houses. And that lady come in toward the end of the time the guys were working there, and she said, "I have a confession. I'm a racist and I hate white people. But you guys are my angels. I don't hate white people anymore." guys, we get to see life change. We get to go out and be Jesus to people that never thought that there really was a Jesus. So if you're ever interested in spreading the love of Jesus and filling your own heart, that's the kind of stuff we need to do. We also now have started in a new arm of the ministry where we build houses for sex trafficking victims. We've done 12 now, and we do them all over the country. I've been to South Dakota, Texas, Mississippi. I even did one here in New York. There's nothing more rewarding than helping young ladies like that. We're getting ready to start a big project in Ohio, which it's only 4 hours away, guys. You can sign up and come help us. But I'm telling you, once you've heard from these survivors and some of the people that work with them, you will be sold. I'm sold out. I do that just about full time. And then we come to New York, and the Sunrays thing is just a little bit different for us. But anytime we find an organization needs help that spreads the love of Jesus and helps young people, young girls that have nowhere to go, have no support, they're going to teach them how to cook there. They're going to teach them how to parent. They're going to counsel them. They're going to, if the babies need adopted out, they're going to do that. How much better does it get, guys? That's how we, as the church, are supposed to live our lives. Thank you.
Stay up here for a moment. We're going to pray for Harold, but thank you for sharing. Are you loving the weather?
Today I am.
Today. And
Ohio's not that much better.
Yeah, it's not. And how far away do you live again?
4 hours. I was just south of Canton, Ohio.
Nice, nice. Well, we love that you're here. Thanks for being here. Thank you for sharing. And then we don't do this here often, but if you're here and you're an 8 Days of Hope volunteer, would you stand up for just a moment? Just a moment. I know that you don't want all the eyes on you, but just all the people who've came here from out of town, so can you just give a hand for them? Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here and helping this week with Sunrays. And I'd like to take a moment to pray for you, and then yeah, you can go back to your seat then. You might be a little more comfortable there. I don't know, but we're going to pray for Harold and for 8 Days of Hope. So, Jesus, we thank you for Harold's boldness to share his story this morning. We thank you how you've been moving in his life these past 20 years, and we just thank you for what you're doing this week as you're working through this team to make an impact at Sunrays. We thank you for the impact that 8 Days of Hope is having all across the country with safe houses and rebuilds, and we thank you that you've allowed us as New Story Church to be a small part of that in some way, Lord. And I pray you'd continue to bless Harold as he pursues you in the ministry that you've called him to. Pray that you'd bless the rest of the volunteers, that they'd move forward in your favor, and that your hand would continue to be on this ministry, and that they would seek you above all else, Lord. And we thank you for 8 Days of Hope and the work that they're doing to expand your kingdom, Lord. In your name I pray. And